John chapter 17, verses 20 through 26. I ask not only on behalf of these, but also on behalf of those who will believe in me through their word, that they may all be one. As you, Father, are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you sent me. The glory that you have given me, I have given them, so that they may be one as we are one. I in them and you in me, that they may be completely one, so that the world may know that you have sent me and have loved them, even as you have loved me. Father, I desire that those also whom you have given me may be with me where I am, to see my glory, which you have given me, because you loved me before the foundation of the world. Righteous Father, the world does not know you, but I know you, and these know that you have sent me. I made your name known to them, and I will make it known, so that the love with which you have loved me may be in them, and I in them. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. When Sue wants me to remember to pick up something she needs from the market, one of those one or two things that are vital for her to have, she will usually, as I'm walking out the door, repeat it a few times as I am leaving. Don't forget the eggs or the coffee or the paper towels. Don't forget the eggs or the coffee or the paper towels. Don't forget the eggs. She will just, and usually it's only three things, because any more than that is very, very risky. And if she's really worried, as she often should be, about my absent-mindedness, I'll get a text from her about the time that she thinks I'm in the market. Usually like one-word reminders. Creamer. Butter. Knowing I often get distracted in the cookie aisle, they do help me to remember. So, in some ways, those last words that we might speak to somebody are just for emphasis, for memory. Don't forget this. Our text this morning is Jesus' walking out the door reminder speech to his disciples. What he thought he needed to say at the end, at the very end, the last thing, the final thing. Don't forget this. Forget everything else maybe. Don't forget this. This is vital. That's our text. So it comes at the end of this long speech, actually, that started in chapter 13 of John. Long speech. And then that long ending final speech to his disciples is ended by this very long prayer of John chapter 17, when Jesus prays for his disciples. And that very long prayer is ended by these final words. And I think it's also significant that this is the end of the Easter season. So here are those who designed the lectionary that put these last words that came within this last speech, that end this last prayer. They put it in here, the last Sunday of the Easter season. The crescendo. The final peak. The climactic moment. After this, no more words. Chapter 18, verse 1 says, "And Jesus went out with his disciples to a garden." That was it. Final words. Talking is over. I'm a little sad to see the Easter season go. I've enjoyed exploring different aspects of this resurrection story, different ways in which it has influenced the church and those who have tied themselves to the Christian story. I'm a little sad to see it go. I've enjoyed it. We began by saying that Easter was not designed to be just a fondly remembered event in the past. Way back in history, this happened. Let's just pay attention to it for a day and then, move on to something else. What we said was that the Easter event became for the disciples a lens through which they viewed the world. A lens through which they began to see themselves and to see the world. It was an event that was to be lived. So the resurrection, we said, was kind of an emancipation proclamation. It was the proclamation of freedom from all the forces in the world, all the ideas that were either limiting or constricting or demeaning or deadening for the lives of people. It was meant to wake them up and free them up so they could live fully and alive with gusto and enthusiasm. So far we've talked about 5 freedoms. And I thought maybe you would let me do just a quick little review. 5 freedoms, and then today will be a 6th one. The first freedom was a new freedom to hope. Resurrection hope was when our attitude about the future is disconnected from our present circumstances. In other words, everything doesn't have to be going perfectly in order to have hope. That's the message of the resurrection. Then we looked at the story of Thomas, said, I won't believe until I see with my own eyes. And we discussed a new freedom to believe, where faith is disconnected from a demand for certainty. We said doubt or questions and uncertainty is the very soil in which faith grows. In fact, it's the only soil in which faith can grow. We should be suspicious not of doubt, but of certainty. Certainty is where we get into all of our trouble. It's on the backs of certainty where the seeds of oppression grow. Then we talked about a new freedom to choose when decisions are disconnected from past failures, and we're free now to make good choices. Free from having to try and constantly make up for past mistakes or wallow in periods of personal regret. And we talked about the transformation and the freedom from shame. Remember, Jesus comes to Peter 3 times, says, do you love me, Peter, to make up for or to counter those 3 denials that he had earlier. And then we looked at the new commandment to love one another. There's no greater or more important quality for the church than love. And if we become known for anything other than love, we've made a bad choice. Then last week we talked about the freedom to dream. When who we are and what we dream are disconnected from the impossible. The resurrection story says anything is possible if you believe and take action. And today is our final topic, the crescendo. By the way, all those sermons are online. If you missed any of them and you want to catch up, you can go there and listen. But our final Sunday of Easter comes to us in this final statement at the end of this final prayer, at the end of Jesus' final words to his disciples. And it's the freedom to be one. The freedom to be one. The process of disconnecting unity from uniformity. Unity does not depend on all of us being the same. Of all the things he could have prayed about at the end, just think about it. You got your last word here. This is it. You have no more words. What do you want to say? What's your final thought? And Jesus talks about, for a while, he talks about unity. It's a surprise to me. I would have not guessed that would have been the thing he decides to discuss. There's a lot of other things that might come to your mind. Why that? Why would Jesus put such an appeal for unity as the pinnacle thing? Now, fortunately, he tells us why. In verse 23. Did you catch it when I read it? He tells us why. He says this, I pray for their oneness, dear Father, here it comes, so that the world may know that you have sent me and that you have loved them even as you have loved me. Here's how they're going to know. Here's the way they're going to know that you've sent me and you love them even as you have loved me. Here's the way they're going to know their unity. That's a lot. There's a lot at stake. It's not just a convenience, or wouldn't that be a nice thing if we all got along? Without unity, Jesus says, the world will not know that I love them just as you, God, have loved me, Jesus says. Isn't that the whole thing? What else is there? Isn't that the whole deal? Isn't that the whole reason Jesus came to earth? Isn't that the whole point of his ministry? Isn't that the whole foundation of what the church is? I mean, everything resides and rests on unity? Jesus is saying that separation and division, no matter what the reason, undermines his entire message of God's love for the world. Without this, Jesus says, without unity, no one will be able to understand what I came to say and do. No one will get it. No wonder he puts it at the end. No wonder he makes such a point of it, if that's the case. So, how exactly does oneness, or a lack of oneness, how does it undermine the gospel? How does that, why? How does that happen? So, here's a suggestion. The gospel is about God's love for all humanity. Any problem with that? It's good. The ministry of Jesus was to deliver the message of unconditional love and acceptability and forgiveness for the whole world, for all human beings. Good news, right? The cross is the cost that Jesus paid to deliver that message, and actually became the primary symbol of God's love and forgiveness for all. The cross of Christ. The message of unconditional love and forgiveness for the world. With me? Unity proclaims that no matter what I think, or what I say about God, or what I proclaim as true, or what behavior I have, or politics, all of that is secondary to what God thinks or what God believes about me. So what I think or believe or do or say, not unimportant, those are all important things, but it's secondary to what God says and thinks and believes about me. But when people separate or divide, for whatever reasons, and by the way, there have been some wild reasons throughout history for churches separating. If you want just a fun, hilarious time, just Google crazy reasons why churches have separated sometime, and you'll read some amazing stories. One church separated because one group thought it should be called a potluck, while the other one thought it should be called a pot blessing. And we all know the old stories about colors of robes or choice of hymnals or types of music. We all know about all of those. But for whatever reasons, even more justified reasons, maybe we might even say, the first division in the church between the East and the West, Orthodox and became the Roman Catholic Church, right? Does anybody know why they divided? They divided primarily over a Greek letter, the iota, the smallest Greek letter. And it was a word that was homoousios versus homoiousios. It was describing the nature of Jesus. One said homoousios, of the same substance with the Father, and the other one said homoiousios, of similar substance with the Father. One wanted homoousios, the other one wanted homoiousios. It was the whole Arian controversy. It was very important. They debated it for hundreds of years. They debated until the church finally settled. But the East and the West divided over it permanently. Permanently. When you look back, though, it was over Rome wanted more power. But everybody said, oh, it's about homoousios. Whatever we divide over, whenever we divide, we communicate in essence that what I think about God or the truth or this topic or this word or that word is more important than what God says and thinks about me and about the world. That is what we are saying. That is the message. All division in the church, no matter what reason, is saying that the good news of God's love for all humanity is not enough to keep us together. Not enough. Yeah, I know God loves everybody, but that's not good enough. When we divide over a particular position, we have made that position more important than the message of unconditional love for the whole world. Division, separation, rejection nullifies the grace of God and replaces it with a list of those acceptable requirements that we have come up with. Division changes the message. No matter what we say, it changes the message. There's more here. It actually, if you look in what Jesus says, he says the unity of the church is tied into the nature of God. Did you pick that up when I was reading? Did you see the connection to the whole Trinity going on in the description? Division, for any reason, not only nullifies the grace of God, but it also undermines the very character of God. Which is why Paul says in Ephesians, there is one body, one Spirit, one hope, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, and one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in all. Anything left out of that? Anything unclear about that? And it isn't disagreements or differences or uniqueness that creates the disruption. In fact, those are all expected. It wasn't the disagreement over homoousios or homoiousios. In fact, the disagreements enhance the message. The disagreements are important. That's why disagreements need to be allowed. Because the disagreements just say that whoever you are, whatever you think, God reaches to you. God is there for you. God's message includes you. It's not the differences between us that are the problem. How about the last words of the whole Bible? The main last, here's the final thing I want you to know and to think about. Ready? Here it is. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Let everyone who hears say, come. Let everyone or anyone who is thirsty come. Let everyone who desires, who just wants to, take and receive without cost the water of life as a gift. There's only one word that communicates, the summary word that communicates the message of Jesus to the world. One word, and if you remember this, you got it all. Here's the word. Ready? It's the word welcome. That's it. Welcome. Not welcome if, not welcome but, or welcome when. Welcome. And this word is not to be added to, Revelation says, or changed or altered. It's the whole message. That welcome is God's, not ours. And He has already decided in Jesus to welcome everyone in the whole world. No exceptions. It's ours by virtue of our birth, declared in our baptism, celebrated in the Eucharist, and proclaimed in our unity. You belong. You belong. Are you human? God has already declared you're accepted, welcomed by His grace and mercy. Unity can be uncomfortable for us. Unity is uncomfortable because, we have to be around people that don't think like us. It can be hard. People who disagree with us, or don't look like us, or, oh my goodness, don't vote like us. That's tough. Unity is uncomfortable because it means that we're at the table with those that may disagree with us. It's humbling. We're not the only show in town. Unity is humbling because in order for it to work, we must recognize that we see through a glass dimly. We are limited. And others may have something to contribute. We are not the final authority. We don't see everything clearly. We don't have all the facts. And some of the facts we have are wrong. What? Yeah. So I learned something interesting this week about church architecture I want to tell you about as we close. Do you know what this part of the church is called? This part under which you are all seated? It's not the chancel. This is the chancel. What's it called? Say it again, John. Nave. It's called a nave. Anybody know where the word nave comes from? Navel. Not belly button. Navy. Navy. It means ship. It means ship. The Latin word is navis. And did you know that ship was probably the earliest symbol for the church? Even before fish and even before the cross. A ship. And in some countries, in ancient churches, they have models of ships posted and hanging on the walls in the nave of the church. The architecture for these early buildings from the very beginning remembered the ship metaphor for the church. They were designed to resemble an upside down ship. Some think it was remembering the safety of Noah's Ark against the rains. We don't really know why, but that makes sense, why it might have been later come to be called a sanctuary or a safe place. So maybe this ship-like building we are in is designed to remind us of something. And maybe it was used to remind them of something too. Maybe it's to remind us that no matter what we think in here, what we talk about in here, what we come to some strong conclusions about in here, that in the end, we are all in the same boat together. No matter what we might think, no other ship. The only ship there is the ship that we are all in together and brought in by Jesus, by the love of God. No matter how much we fail or how much we separate and divide, there is still only one boat where we all belong. And that's why Paul says in Ephesians 4, with all humility and gentleness and patience, bear with one another in love. Be eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. That's why he says that. Work out your differences, Jesus says, with one another. Be grown-ups, Jesus says. But stay together. Be humble and gentle and patient. There's a lot at stake. So be eager. I love that when Paul said, be eager to stay together in the same boat that I have made for you and for the whole world. This is the amazing final word that Jesus gives to the disciples before the end. Stay together. Remember, we are in the same boat. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.